The first contact was supposed to be peaceful, but it did not begin with peace. It began with laughter in the great chamber of the Galactic Union. Where hundreds of species gathered for diplomacy, the humans stood small and knew their clothes plain. Compared to the bright robes of other delegates, the Union leaders spoke in voices that echoed across the chamber. And when the name of Earth was called, the laughter began. One alien with scales glittering in the light leaned forward and called. Then Primitive, another, with long, thin limbs, waved a hand and said they had come from a mud ball, barely learning to leave their own sky. Their words were sharp and cruel, but the laughter was worse. It rolled across the chamber like thunder making. The humans feel as if the whole galaxy was mocking them. Captain Harris, who stood at the front of the small human group, clenched his jaw. His people had worked for decades to reach this place, to build ships that could cross the void, to finally step into the galaxy's stage. Yet here they were treated as insects the aliens showed them. Holograms of giant fleets glittering with weapons and stations the size of moons. They reminded humans that the stars were not for children to play with. One alien delegate leaned close and sneered, "You are still animals. You fight with sticks and fire. Your ships are toys. Your mind's too small to see the great patterns of the stars." But Harris did not answer. Not at first. His silence made the aliens laugh louder. Some called the humans brave for even showing up. Others said they were foolish, a waste of resources, a weak flame that would burn out soon. Even the Galactic Union recorders wrote in their notes that humanity was not to be taken seriously. Then Harris raised his hand slowly. He opened a simple paper folder, while every alien used glowing datapads and energy screens. The human captain unfolded old printed pages with star charts on them. The chamber fell a little quiet as his voice cut through the noise. He spoke of constellations, shifting of energy flows hidden behind bright suns. He pointed to one star system known to the aliens as stable, and said in 5 cycles, that system will collapse into chaos. The aliens scoffed, but a few of their scientists frowned, for they had seen the same signs in secret reports. Harris closed the folder and looked around the chamber. His eyes were calm, but inside him burned a fire. He said, "You call us primitive, you call us small, but we see what you do not. We survived on a world of storms, volcanoes, beasts, and endless struggle. We learned to fight nature itself, and we learned to see patterns where others saw only chaos. Maybe our ships are new, maybe our lives are short, but do not mistake short lives for small minds." Words struck deeper than any weapon could. The chamber did not laugh. A whisper spread across the alien seats. How could a race so young predict stellar collapse? How could they know things hidden from empires, with machines older than human history? One scientist from the Krell species leaned forward and asked, "How did you see this, Harris?" Only smiled and said, "We watched the sky for thousands of years, long before we touched it. While you had machines, we had eyes and memory. Our ancestors told us where the stars moved, and we never forgot, though." Insult that was meant to break them, instead, lit something fierce inside every human present. They could still hear the laughter ringing in their ears, but it no longer cut them down. It fueled them. The aliens had shown their arrogance. They had shown that they feared not humans, but the idea of humans becoming something more. Harris knew in that moment that Earth would not crawl into the galaxy begging for respect. They would take it by proving themselves, not with words alone, but with action. When the meeting ended, the humans walked out under the stares of hundreds of alien eyes, some filled with pity, some with doubt, and a few with the first spark of fear. Outside the chamber, Harris turned to his crew, his voice low but steady. "They think we are primitive. Let them think that. But from this day, show them what it means when a primitive race decides to rise." His crew nodded, their faces set like stone. That night, as the humans returned to their small borrowed quarters, Harris sat by the window watching the stars. He thought of Earth, of children playing under the blue sky, of workers building ships with their hands, and of scientists burning midnight oil to unlock secrets no alien believed they could understand. He whispered to himself, "We will rewrite the stars," and the words hung in the air like a promise. What the aliens did not know was that Earth had already begun experiments that bent the edges of reality, small tests hidden from the eyes of the Union, while they mocked humans for using metal ships. The humans were sketching designs for drives that twisted the laws of physics themselves. The insult had not crushed them. It had forged them into something sharper. The fire had been sparked, and the galaxy would soon learn that the so-called primitive race was ready to burn brighter than anyone had ever imagined. The insult still burned in their hearts when the humans returned to Earth. The Galactic Union had laughed at them, mocked them, and called them primitive. But Harris and his crew carried that insult like fuel. They knew words alone could not change. The galaxy-only proof could the world's leaders met in secret rooms and underground chambers. Their faces hard, their voices sharp. They argued, some feared provoking the alien empires. Others believed hiding was safer. But Harris stood at the center of one meeting and told them, if we hide now, we remain slaves to their laughter. If we rise, we show them what humanity truly is. His words were carried across every nation, and for once Earth spoke as one. The first project was simple in name, but impossible. In design, they called it the Rewrite Drive. It was not built from alien scraps or stolen machines. It was built from human minds and human ment. Stubbornness, their scientists studied the gaps in alien knowledge, the things their empires had abandoned. As wasteful or impossible humans had a habit of chasing the impossible with reckless faith, and this time, they refused to stop. Night after night, men and women worked in secret. Labs, their hands stained with grease, their eyes red with sleepless fire. When alien spies slipped into Earth's networks, they found only half-truths and misdirections. The real work was hidden. Deep underground, guarded by silence, months turned into years. The aliens grew louder in their mockery. Every broadcast from the Union spoke of humans as children still crawling while the galaxy soared, but Harris smiled each time he heard those words because he knew the first Rewrite ship was nearly ready. The vessel was not large, not beautiful. Its hull was patched from different metals. Its design was more brutal than elegant, but within it beat a heart unlike any engine the galaxy had ever seen. The drive did not bend space the way alien engines did. It reached into patterns hidden in the fabric of reality. The same patterns Harris had hinted at in the Great Chamber. When the day of the test came, the crew gathered at the launch site. A storm raged above, but no one moved away. Harris stood on the ramp, his voice steady. We are told that we are primitive, that our ships are toys today. We prove them wrong today. We stop crawling and start running. The crew cheered, not with fear, but with hunger, the hunger to show the galaxy their worth. The engines roared and the Rewrite Drive came alive. The ship lifted into the storm clouds. Fire and lightning wrapped around it. Then in a sudden silence, it vanished, not through speed, not through normal jump, but through something stranger. In orbit, satellites screamed as readings spiked. The ship reappeared seconds later at the far edge of the solar system, light years worth of distance covered in a blink. No alien ship had ever done this, not even the most advanced empires. The humans had rewritten the law of travel itself. Harris looked out the window of the ship as stars stretched and bent. His crew gasped. Some cried, others laughed. The impossible was now real, and it belonged to humanity. The test was a success, and yet a message needed to be sent. Harris ordered the ship to send a simple broadcast across the void, just 6 words carved into the silence. They called us primitive. We answered when the broadcast reached the Union. Chamber laughter did not follow this time. Instead, silence spread through the hall. Alien leaders stared at the message there. Scientists scrambled to understand the readings. One by one, their faces grew pale. Impossible had been achieved by the race they mocked, and the first cracks of fear appeared. Some leaders shouted that the humans must be stopped before they spread too far. Others whispered that perhaps humanity had touched something no one else dared. Earth. Harris and his crew returned as heroes, but he warned them. This is not victory. This is the first step. The galaxy now knows our fire, and they will come. To put it out, we must be ready, and his warning was true across the stars' fleets. Stirred messages whispered in the dark empires that once mocked now planned their strike. They believed it would be easy. They believed humanity had only one miracle left to show they were wrong. The first rewrite was only the beginning. Back in his quarters, Harris looked again at the night sky. He thought of the promise he had whispered after the insult. We will rewrite the stars. He touched the glass and smiled, knowing that today they had written the first word of that story. The first rewrite test spread across the galaxy like a storm. The 6 words broadcast by the human ship reached every empire, every council, and every warlord, and each of them read the same thing. They called us primitive. We answered those words. were not just a message, they were a challenge. And the galaxy does not ignore challenges. Many alien leaders gathered in hidden chambers. Their voices filled with anger. One declared that humans had broken the balance. Another swore they must be destroyed. Before their strange engines spread to others' fleets that once ignored, Earth now set their course toward the small blue planet. They called it a cleansing, a simple operation that would take days. They believed the war would be shortened. Earth Harris watched the signals of approaching fleets, his face calm but his chest heavy. The Rewrite drive had brought pride to humanity, but also danger. He stood before the leaders of Earth, said they will come, and they will come fast. They think we are weak, but we are not. We survived worse than fleets. We survived a world that tried to kill us every day. Storms, fire, disease, beasts, hunger. We turned struggle into strength, and now we will turn their attack into our fire. The leaders agreed, not out of courage, but out of necessity. There was no other choice. The first battles began at the edges of the solar system. Alien warships entered with shields glowing and weapons ready. They laughed again, this time not with words but with the casual fire of their guns. They fired at human defense lines, expecting them to fall in moments. But the humans did not fight like them. Alien fleets moved in perfect formations, cold and logical, while human ships moved like hunters, scattered, unpredictable, each one using the Rewrite drive in ways no one had imagined. Warships blinked in and out of combat, appearing behind enemies, firing and vanishing again. Alien commanders shouted in confusion, their strategies failing against chaos. They could not predict one. Alien captain recorded a desperate message before his ship was torn apart by a human ambush. They fight like they know the stars themselves. They are everywhere and nowhere, he screamed, before silence claimed him across the front lines. Alien fleets began to break. Humans were still fewer in number, their ships smaller, but their minds sharper and their wills stronger. They used asteroids as shields. They hid ships inside storms. They turned the sun's gravity into a weapon no computer could predict. Their moves, because humans were not bound by logic alone. They fought with instinct, with creativity, with fury. Harris commanded the first fleet, his eyes never leaving the stars around him. He gave orders that seemed like madness, sending small ships against massive carriers, throwing his lines into scattered pieces. But each move bent the aliens into traps. He whispered to his crew, let them think us reckless, let them think us desperate. They will never see the pattern until it is too late. And the pattern revealed itself again and again. Alien warships surrounded human fragments, only to be swallowed by sudden attacks from every side. One by one, the invaders burned, their laughter replaced by fear. But victory was not easy. Human ships were torn apart, men and women died, their names carried in silence. Harris stood in the command room as reports came of losses. He felt the weight, but his voice never broke. We do not fall, we rise from every strike. Stronger and sharper, the crew echoed his words and returned to battle. Each loss forged their fire harder. As the war dragged on, alien empires began to argue among themselves. Some demanded more fleets, others began to question why a race they called primitive could not be crushed. Whispers spread through their halls that perhaps humanity had touched something deeper than technology. Perhaps the Rewrite drive was not just an engine, but a doorway to truths no empire wanted to face. Their unity fractured and fear began to poison their councils. Then came the Battle of Titan, where the largest alien fleet in history gathered to end the humans once and for all. They believed a final strike would erase Earth. Harris and his fleet arrived against impossible odds. Thousands of alien ships filled the void around Saturn, their weapons glowing brighter than suns. Harris stood at the helm, his voice steady. They came to watch us die instead. They will watch us rise. He ordered the fleet into positions that looked broken, scattered, and lost. The alien commanders laughed at the sight and charged in. That moment Harris gave the final command. The Rewrite drives activated, and the human fleet vanished, only to reappear behind the alien lines. The sky erupted in chaos. Humans fired into the backs of their enemies, cutting their formation into pieces. Asteroids shifted from hidden tethers, smashing into carriers. Missiles rained from angles no one had expected. The void was filled with fire and screams, and for the first time, alien admirals realized they were not fighting a primitive race. They were fighting a force that learned faster than machines, adapted quicker than logic, and struck harder than storms when. The smoke cleared, the Titan fleet was shattered, thousands of alien ships burned across the stars, the humans bloodied and scarred still stood. Harris looked at the wreckage and whispered, "This is the war they expected to win, but wars are not won by arrogance, they are won by fire, and we carry fire in our very souls." The wreckage of the great battle drifted across the stars, broken ships glowing like dying embers. The Titan fleet was gone, and humanity still stood. The galaxy watched in silence. The races that once laughed were now whispering to each other in hidden halls. How had a young world survived? How had a primitive race defeated fleets older than their entire history? But Harris knew this was only the beginning. Victory at Titan was a warning to the empires, and warnings do not last long. He stood on the deck of his flagship, his face tired, his eyes burning with a decision it carried since the first insult. The time had come to show the galaxy something they could not ignore. The human scientists had been working in silence while the war raged. They had not only built drives to move ships, but drives that bent the very patterns of the sky. Harris ordered their work revealed in a single broadcast across every channel, every world, every empire. The message began with the simple words, "You called us primitive then." The signal opened into a map. The galaxy stretched in glowing lines across the screens of billions of beings. And then the lines began to change. Stars shifted in real-time, constellations bent, twisted, and formed new patterns. Entire sectors of space looked different than they had only moments before. The Empire stared in disbelief. First, many believed it was a trick, a human illusion meant to frighten them. But their own scientists screamed it was no lie. Sensors confirmed what the map displayed. Human experiments with the Rewrote drive had bent reality. Entire clusters of stars now carried scars of their work. Humans had not just traveled faster, they had rewritten the shape of the heavens. One alien leader fell silent, his claws trembling as he whispered, "They are changing the canvas itself." Another shouted, "It is a weapon, they will destroy the galaxy." But no one laughed now. The chamber of the Union was filled only with Faircross. Alien worlds common. Citizens looked at the broadcast and felt something strange. Not only fear, but awe. They had been told humans were primitive, weak, and foolish. Yet here were the so-called primitives reshaping the sky itself. Mothers told their children to remember. The night the stars moved, fathers whispered that a new age was coming. Some called for humans to be destroyed before they grew too powerful. Others began to question if perhaps it was wiser to kneel and learn. Harris knew the message would divide them, and that was the point. In Earth, people gathered under the night sky, watching as new constellations formed above their heads. Children pointed with wide eyes. Soldiers lifted their hands as if to touch the new patterns. Poets wrote that humanity had stolen the pen of the gods and begun their own story. Harris listened to the voices of his people and felt both pride and fear, for he knew the empires would not sit idle. Some would rush to crush humanity, others would break apart in terror. Either way, the fire had been lit, and no force could put it out. In secret meetings, alien generals argued their voices. Sharp one shouted that the Rewrote drive must be stolen. Another claimed it could not be stolen because it was not just a machine. It was something born of human minds, adaptable, unpredictable. The more they studied the drive, the less sense it made, as if humans had seen connections others were blind to. Some whispered that perhaps their short lifespans gave them an edge, a desperation to achieve in decades what others tried in centuries. Harris himself said it best. When asked how humans had done it, he answered, "We had no choice. Survival gave us no time to wait." The broadcast continued for hours, showing not weapons, not threats, but new maps, new designs, new possibilities, each one a quiet declaration that humans were no longer following the galaxy's story. They were writing a new one, and as the stars shifted, alien histories began to crumble. Empires built on the certainty of the cosmos now faced doubt for the first time. Their maps were wrong, their predictions broken, their faith shattered. Harris stood before the human fleet, his voice carried to every ship. "They will see us as a danger, and they are right, but they will also see us as a promise that no limit is final, no law eternal, We will not only survive, we will lead in the following days. Chaos spread in the Union. Alliances cracked, old enemies turned on each other. Some empires prepared fleets to strike again. Others tried to send envoys begging for treaties. The signal had shaken not just their plans, but their belief in themselves. If humans could change the stars, what else could they change? Harris read the reports with calm resolve. He knew what was coming. The war was far from over. The greatest battle still lay ahead. But deep inside, he also knew the galaxy had already lost something, their certainty. Their arrogance the night the humans bent the constellations was the night the galaxy learned fear. Harris looked once more through the windows of his ship, his eyes on the new patterns above. He whispered to himself, they called us primitive, and now they call us something else. The first of his crew asked him, what do they call us now? Harris smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. Gods, he said, and then added, but we are not gods. We are only human, and that is enough. The galaxy was no longer united after the signal. The constellations they had trusted for ages were broken, and rewritten entire sectors of space looked unfamiliar, as if someone had redrawn the map of existence. Alien leaders who once stood proud now argued like frightened children. One council chamber echoed with shouting. One admiral demanded total war against Earth. Another shouted that such war was madness since humanity had bent reality itself. Old alliances cracked as leaders accused each other of weakness. Empires that had been stable for centuries trembled under the weight of doubt and Earth. The people celebrated, but Harris did not celebrate. He stood in silence, watching the reports flow, and his crew gathered around him there. Voices low, they are afraid, sir. Some are even begging for peace. Harris nodded, but his eyes were hard. Fear is not peace. It is only the moment before the storm. He knew the galaxy would not simply kneel. Some would try to destroy them. Others would seek to use them. Every victory pulled them closer to the edge of a wider war. Human scientists continued their work. The rewrite drive was no longer just a tool for travel. They discovered it could alter the flow of energy, bend gravity, even change the movement of stars. Small tests shook nearby. Systems asteroids spun out of their paths. Black holes rippled like disturbed water. What frightened the aliens most was not the machines, but the minds behind them. Human researchers worked without limits. They did not follow the rules the galaxy had written. They broke them and built new ones faster than any empire could react. Reports from alien spies spoke in whispers. Humans adapt faster than our machines, faster than our councils. We cannot predict them. They are not playing the game. They are changing it. Tinside the Union chambers, paranoia spread. Some leaders wanted to unite and strike Earth with all their power. Others whispered of surrender, and learning from the humans, fear turned into anger, anger into betrayal. Old rivals reignited ancient grudges. One empire turned its fleet not against Earth but against its neighbor, using the excuse of human fear to expand their borders in weeks across systems, not because of humans, but because of the collapse of certainty. Harris read these reports and felt the weight of it all. His officers asked him why he did not rejoice at the chaos. He answered, because a broken galaxy is more dangerous than a united one. The fire is spreading, and it will reach us soon. He gathered his crew and told them humanity must be ready for anything: treaties, war, betrayal, or worship. We will face them all. The first envoys arrived, alien ships landing on Earth. Not with weapons, but with trembling hands. They offered alliances, gifts, and promises of peace. One tall insectoid leader bowed so low its claws touched the ground. It begged to learn the secrets of the rewrite drive. Harris listened, but gave nothing away. He told them, we will share nothing to those who mocked us. We will trust only those who stand with us by action, not words. The envoy left in silence, but outside the chamber, human soldiers whispered that even the mighty were kneeling before them. Not all came to kneel. Others prepared in secret, building fleets in the dark corners of space, plotting to strike when humanity was distracted. Harris sensed this truth and warned his leaders, do not mistake fear for surrender. They will strike harder than ever before, and when they do, we must be sharper than fire. Back on Earth Common, people struggled to understand what they had become. Some saw themselves as saviors. Others feared the burden Children looked at the stars and saw new patterns of hope, but soldiers carried heavy hearts, for every victory came with blood. Harris knew this and carried it like a wound. He spoke quietly to his second officer. "We are still human. We bleed, we grieve, but we do not stop. We rise," and she answered. "We rise together." As months passed, the Rewrite experiments grew more dangerous. A test in a distant system caused a star to flare brighter than ever before. Alien sensors across the galaxy caught the blast and panic, followed the message, spread the humans can command the stars itself. Harris stood in the control room of the test site and whispered to himself, "We are walking closer to a line. A line no one has crossed before." The collapse of certainty was complete. Alien maps no longer worked. Their fleets no longer trusted their leaders. No empire knew what tomorrow would bring. Some crumbled into civil war, others waited in silence. Frozen by fear, but one truth was clear. Every eye now turned toward Earth, some with hope, others with hate. Harris looked out at the night sky, glowing with new constellations, and felt the weight of destiny heavier than ever before. He told his crew, "The galaxy is broken now. It waits for us to decide whether it will burn or be rebuilt." The galaxy held its breath. The stars themselves seemed to wait. Alien fleets hovered at borders, watching and fearing, while others sharpened weapons in the dark. Every council, every empire spoke the same words: "Humanity has gone too far." Some shouted to crush Earth, others whispered to kneel, but no one dared to move. First, Harris knew why they were waiting. Humans had shown them fragments, glimpses of power, but not the final shape of what they were building. The Rewrite project was not finished. Yet the true experiment lay hidden in the heart of a dying star. The humans had chosen a red giant on the edge of known space. A star mass, unstable, already burning in its last age. Alien scientists had long declared it untouchable, too dangerous to study, but for humans, danger was a challenge. Harris stood with his crew as their fleet approached the burning giant. Its light filled their ships with crimson fire. His voice carried across every deck. "Today, we show them that destiny is not given to us, it is made by us today. We do not just travel the stars, we command them." Rewrite array unfolded around the dying star. Dozens of human ships linked together, their drives singing with strange energy patterns no alien language could translate. On alien worlds, sensors screamed as they detected impossible shifts. The star's surface rippled like an ocean. Waves of fire bent inward, then outward. Time itself seemed to stutter. One alien council watched in horror. One leader shouted, "They are tearing reality apart," but another whispered, "No, they are shaping it." Harris stood calm, his eyes locked on the swirling storm before him. Moment came, the drives fired together, their energy folding into the core of the star instead of collapsing into a supernova. The red giant bent inward, its death halted, its fury shaped into something new in the heart of the blaze. A gateway opened, not a wormhole, not a jump path, but something larger, a wound in reality leading to a galaxy beyond the galaxy. The humans had not just rewritten the map, they had written a door to other universes. Signal of this moment reached every corner of the galaxy. Alien ships stopped and placed their weapons. Falling silent, entire worlds stared at the new sun with fear and awe. Harris ordered a message sent across the stars. The humans did not send threats. They sent a single sentence written in every tongue of the Union. "We hold the pen now." The meaning was clear. Humanity was no longer a child of the galaxy. They were its author on Earth. Billions gathered to watch the transmission, tears-filled eyes, as they realized what their people had done from a world mocked as primitive. They had risen to command the fate of sun's children, looked at the sky, and whispered that nothing was impossible again. Harris stood among his crew, his face weary but proud. He said, "We are not gods, we are not rulers, we are human, and that is enough." Galaxy reacted in chaos. Some empires collapsed under the weight of fear, their leaders fleeing their thrones, others bent the knee, declaring loyalty to humanity. A few still swore vengeance, but even their voices shook. For how could war be waged against those who could rewrite reality itself? Harris saw it all with calm. He turned to his officers and said, "The galaxy has changed forever, but we must not forget what we are. We are the fire that rose from a single world. We are the storm that no one believed could last. The dying star now burns steady, its gateway pulsing, With quiet light, Harris looked into it and whispered, "This is not an ending. It is a beginning beyond. This door lies more. Than stars lies more than empires lies the unknown, and we will step into it together." His crew nodded, their eyes bright with both fear and hope. The rewrite was complete. The insult that had once lit their fire was now dust in memory. What began with laughter ended in silence. The galaxy understood one truth. The primitive race had rewritten the stars, and with it the future of all who lived beneath them.